Welcome back to Pianoturtle. Today we're going to talk about Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto No. 3, Movement 1, the Cadenza. It is the first of two cadenzas, actually. This is a challenge to play. There are two versions of the first cadenza. Cadenza primo is lighter, and the ossia, which means alternate version, is actually written first. It is more dramatic, and it is what Rachmaninoff originally intended. But later he wrote the lighter, more playful version, and some people call it the toccata version, which literally means to touch. It often showcases performer ability, virtuosity, and is often quick and technically challenging. So a lot to talk about today. Topic number 1. This concerto is written in Sonata Allegro form. The full Sonata Allegro form is actually 5 things. Number 1, introduction. Number 2, exposition, multiple themes. 3, development. Recapitulation, going back home, right? And in the recapitulation, often there's a cadenza, all right? And after the cadenza, there's a coda. So the cadenza can also happen in the coda, by the way. And today we're talking about the cadenza. The cadenza is historically improvised. And some pieces like Hungarian Rhapsody number 2 of Liszt simply says in words cadenza and then leaves it up to the performer to do whatever they want. All right. It was later when music got harder, which means it's harder to improvise harder cadenzas, that the performers and the composers started writing down the cadenzas. So cadenzas, to improvise or not to improvise, that is the question, right? Okay, the first movement so far follows this format to the letter, but then the cadenza happens right after the development. Well, shouldn't it be recapitulation first? Well, traditionally speaking, but no. The orchestra drops out and the pianist plays alone right after the development. All right, where's the recapitulation? Does it follow the cadenza then? Is it reversed? Well, I listened to it. And for the longest time, I thought that this concerto is a modified Sonata Allegro form, modified, since the recap is a note-for-note repeat of the exposition, which is, well, you know what, not very creative, right? Traditionally, the recapitulation recaptures the exposition, but often changes and modifies a little or a lot during the Sonata Allegro form. But in this one, the recapitulation is exactly the same, followed by a very, very, very short coda, and then the movement ends. Just like that. Not very typical. First movements often end bigger than that. What does that mean? That means if Rachmaninoff were to follow the traditional format and not modify it, the first movement alone would be about 30 minutes, if not over, depending on how creative he wants to be. So I think in terms of tradition and form, this is a short concerto, a short movement. But here's the big but. What if, bear with me now, what if the cadenza is actually the recapitulation and the repeat of the exposition is actually the coda? The length would make more sense. The coda is not tiny anymore. It's a good length. And since it's a coda, it's okay if it's a repeat. What if you wanted to do was to have the cadenza also be the recapitulation, just without orchestra? After all, he deliberately gave the orchestra majority of the work with the main melody. Remember, I only get this, or I get this without this. In the cadenza, Rachmaninoff plays the melody for the first time with accompaniment. Big return of the main melody. Cadenza version. bigger, right? Rachmaninoff says, my turn, right? Why did I stop there? Because it's the A. Okay, in the cadenza there is no more B flat, he stays on A. But the original, all of that is just simply cut. So he stops the melody right there. Instead, it's a bigger ending. Extends it. Variates it. Final time. Extends it. Sequence. 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 Final sequence. Zigzag octaves all the way down. And that ends the cadenza. Okay, now for the lighter cadenza. So on and so forth, and very light, very light. But here, that's all the same for both cadenzas. So the melody is pretty obvious in both of these cadenzas. As we get closer to the end of the first movement, I would like to offer my opinion on this concerto. It is a short concerto in terms of form. Think about it. Really, no orchestra intro, right? No development of the second beautiful theme at all. No cadenza, depending on how you see it. You see, I see the cadenza as both recap and cadenza, especially since I'm playing the solo version. It doesn't feel like the orchestra dropped out, right? Okay, cadenza number 2, which is next week, touches on these two, the theme too. It does touch on it. It departs from it quite a lot. And a repeat, and then a tiny coda. No, the recapitulation is the cadenza, right? It's like drawing a lion without claws or tail, or cooking an omelet without breaking eggs. What can I say? Now that I love this concerto, can you blame me for wanting a 4-hour long Rachmaninoff cut? You know, release the Rachmaninoff cut. By the way, I love long movies too. Lord of the Rings extended cut, the upcoming Snyder cut of the Justice League. Yep, can't wait for that. All right, on to topic number 2, technical challenges. The playful cadenza, this section here. I think it's actually a little more challenging than the bigger dramatic version. Take a look at this. Let's stepwising down. How do you miss that? All right? Whereas going over like that can be confusing. So in its own way, it's got its own challenges, right? And then this part right here, it's just octaves. Again, again, you can't hardly miss it. But the other cadenza, the primo cadenza, you have to hop along, and to play clearly, you know, that's kind of hard too. This one, you really don't have to worry about technique as much, in my opinion. Okay, so the opening, I think the lighter cadenza is harder in its own way. But when it comes to the main theme, yes, the main theme, due to the big leaps, it's a little harder. So each cadenza have easier parts and harder parts. All right, so fingery or hand position, both are challenges. Just because it sounds lighter doesn't mean it's easier, you know. And it's rather ridiculous to criticize some of the world's most renowned pianists just because they prefer the lighter cadenza. When Rachmaninoff first met Horowitz on 1928, they went over the third concerto in Steinway Basement, 57th Street in New York. I've been there. Great pianos. Rachmaninoff made a few suggestions about dynamics, phrasing, and mentioned that he liked the shorter cadenza more than the longer one. Well, his reason, the alternate cadenza is like an ending in itself. It is not good to end the concerto before it's over, end quote, right? That is in Horowitz's biography by Glenn Plaskin. Other reasons include concerto too long. The LP, the disc, it doesn't have enough room to fit all that, all right? In my opinion, Rachmaninoff worried too much. Horowitz also played it differently near the end. Point is, his mind, changes all the time, and the score is just a roadmap, not the final product. Okay, with that said, I do wonder why, if the performers nowadays perform it more than once, why not play a different version? Why not enjoy it all? I don't understand it. All right, topic number 3. As far as musicality, after the hero got out of the trap, he either finds the courage to spring into action with newfound strength, toys with his opponent, or he's still weighed down by the defeat and slowly gathers up the courage. Battles, heroically battles. And regardless of which story you choose, and again, these are just 2 of many scenarios, the hero gets to win this time. So today, I want to attempt to solve 2 issues. Number 1, the debate over which cadenza to choose, primo or oscilla, right? Number 2, cadenzas, improvised or not improvised. Okay, just for kicks and giggles, I toyed around with a hybrid version and an alternate ending. All right, in addition to the end, the end is inspired from the thought that, what if Rachmaninoff did not cut the ending? You know, I most likely will not perform it like this, but I'm having a little bit of fun here. was fun. See you next week with Cadenza number